Welcome back to Anime Fight Club, everyone. My name is Grim. Today we're checking out Baki Dou Part 1, or Musashi Dou, and we're in the middle of a fight between Musashi and Shibukawa, and I'm super excited for this. I'm so glad nobody spoiled this. Like, I had no idea that Goki was going to come up to Musashi next, so super excited to see the conclusion. Goki reached out his hand, and Musashi grabbed it, and Goki forced Musashi into the ground the same way he did Oliver. Told him, I understand that you were in a life or death duel, but that was my friend and you killed him. And landed this mean punch to Musashi's face. So here he is. Musashi is on the ground, a little dazed, nose bleeding. The superintendent, the other police chief, whatever, they're all shocked while looking at this man on the ground take the brunt of that attack. Goki lets his hand go. Superintendent says, the other officers, and Musashi's just laying there. I'm not sure if he's unconscious. Looks like Goki let his hand go and it just fell to the ground. Ha! That's what you get. Master Shibukawa, what good fortune to witness how explosive Aiki is in actual combat. And as this guy's having that thought, Musashi snatches himself up, Ozaru eyes activated. Surely he had to hurry up and wake himself up. He was talking to Baki about how many times he could have killed him while he was unconscious. So here, Musashi's cells, his whole being must have forced him to wake up since he was unconscious, and surely could have been killed in that instant. It's great though, he has not woken himself up nearly as quickly as Yujiro did when Baki knocked him out. So Musashi sits back up, surprising the superintendent and the other cop, and Goki's just standing there looking at him. Oh? Don't expect an apology. Musashi just glares at him. Call it vengeance for a friend if you like. Although I'd hardly call this vengeance. That's not what Retsu would want now. He fought knowing he might not survive, so no hard feelings, isn't it? But you or him can't feel what I am feeling at this moment. So I'll do everything I want to make myself feel better without caring about your safety. He's saying all this, Musashi's nose still bleeding, but he's just looking at Goki, taking all this in. So everyone looks onward. Goki says, in other words, I'm going to fight you just for fun. And Musashi says, surely eager to see what else Goki has up his sleeve. That's fine. I have to say, what a great technique though. My hand was completely trapped. Even though the grip power in our hands were completely equal, the control was completely one-sided. Moreover, the transfer of weight through the trapped hand felt as if I was trapped under a giant boulder. I can only imagine what this has to feel like in real life. I would love to have somebody do this to me, just so I could experience what he felt, that to not be in control at all, like you're being forced to the ground to no avail. There's nothing you can do. I'd honestly like to experience that. I've never seen such a technique. That's true. Aiki wasn't around in the Warring States period. Unarmed combat techniques were developed to use against armed opponents, in the case that you were to lose your sword or spear in the middle of battle. Oh wow. Unarmed combat? From the time you were alive in that period, this happened well into the future. This country calls it the Haitorai Edict, the banning of carrying swords. As a result, unarmed techniques were all that was left. It was called Jujutsu. Jujutsu? In the year 1859, there was a man that possessed extraordinary talent. His name was Sokaku Takeda. When he was 15, he got caught up in a gang fight at the town of Inawashiro. and destroyed them in the most brutal fashion. All his tales of bravery and exploits were so many that they're almost uncountable. And it didn't end there. And no, not by a long shot. Quite a long story. Born with a disadvantage of just 4'9" of height, he devised a way of fighting you could call revolutionary. Special techniques that could disable an opponent's violent attacks. Right at the moment of contact, he created and perfected Aiki. Aiki? There were also several other great masters after Sokaku Takeda. Eventually, one of them surpassed Sokaku, a man of great talents that improved and modernized Aiki. Surely he's talking about himself as he smiles. Me, Shibukawa Goki. He gave his name. It's starting. Musashi smiles. Mr. Shibukawa. What can you visualize at this moment in front of me? Since the morning, a field of flowers. So surely he's lying just so that he doesn't give away the danger that he's feeling while facing Musashi. He told him he sees a field of flowers, whereas in actuality, this cliff is broken and there's a rampant river flowing. And then what we actually see from Musashi is a field of flowers, and he in turn says likewise. And that's the truth. Oh my goodness. But Goki's pissed, having lost his friend Retsu to Musashi. He's about to go for it anyway. Chapter 76, The Concept. Which is the greatest art of self-defense, you ask? That's an easy one. Nothing is greater than Chinese martial arts. I would have loved to respond like that, but in reality, when you've lived over 150 years as a fighter, it becomes difficult to say such biased statements. You see, it comes in stages. At first, you'll beat your opponents without breaking a sweat. It'll feel real good, but you're only halfway there. You'll use your newly mastered superb techniques, but as a fighter, still far from perfection. When you finally see the perfection of martial arts, have to refrain from using techniques. Otherwise, using them will take you to a dangerous place. So he says once you finally attain perfection, you have to refrain from using those techniques. Otherwise, it'll take you to a dangerous place. Whether what confronts you are roaring flames, a raging river, or razor-sharp mountains. Whatever stands in your way, it can't even get close after you attain the perfection of martial arts. These are prayer beads. My favorite pupil is crossing over the land of the spirits, you see. The start of a peaceful day, the same as yesterday in a residential area. What's different? The streets today. They're filled with scorching hot lava. Oh goodness, so it wasn't that he was seeing water, this is lava. I figured as much, but I couldn't exactly tell, being that it was black and white, and it didn't look that much thicker. The dangerous days are always like that. I always advise not to go. But it's your life and your choice. The problem with us, the martial artists, is that we love danger. It calls to us, and we run to conquer. So all of this is definitely just psychological. Goki has to walk through it in order to make it to his opponent. I believe this is when he was walking up to Yujiro and Yanagi. But I guess it could have been this. I was remembering that he had on white instead of black, which made me think that was a flashback, but it could have been this. So Goki says, Mr. Utsumi. I guess you could say it has already started. And right as he says that, he has his wrist, well, his hand and head cut off. Goodness. Goki looks back at Musashi like, what? Musashi standing there smiling. Oh my goodness. Now it started. He looks at his hand. I figured you'd try something of the sort. And they're both looking like, what happened? After all, surprise attacks are your forte, you dirty bastard. But I suppose you're from a different time. Finally, Miyamoto Musashi, invincible under the heavens, has come to our era. So Musashi flares up in aura, shocking Goki. He's like, oh my goodness, it looks like Gohan versus Krillin, like just huge difference in strength. Well, let's see what happens. So here, Goki, up until this point, has been seeing lava in front of him, but once Musashi erupts in power, he sees a volcano erupting before him. He says, oh my goodness. Musashi's holding these invisible swords. He says, I see. Looks like he's armed after all, short and long blades. Goodness, so he can tell just by the positioning of his hand, by his posture. Well, that's to be expected. Goki leaps forward, takes off with an extremely quick tackle. He says, after all, he's a samurai. And as he gets super close to Musashi, we see another impact, as though Goki's right arm has been cut off. Chapter 77. As one would expect. That was a cool image of Baki. So here we have, I like when they do images like this. This means they're doing this so we can see it in slow motion, almost frame by frame. So we have Goki and Musashi here. Goki lifts his left foot to get ready to exert force on his right foot to move forward toward Musashi. Musashi has both hands positioned and holding these invisible swords. Goki proceeds to start to move. It still looks as though Musashi hasn't budged yet. As Goki proceeds to, like, his right foot hasn't even made it off the ground yet. Musashi rushes in and strikes. Yep. Oh wow, it was a slash from the left to the right. From the top left of Goki's body to the right bottom. So this would have, had he had an actual sword in his hand, it would have cleaved Goki in two. But let's see, since he doesn't have a sword, what will happen to him. So it looks as though Goki's consciousness feels that strike. Well, then in reality, we see that he's not actually affected. Someone says, Gah. Goki covers his shoulder with his hand, covering the strike that isn't there. He got me. Goki screams. Looks as though he's really feeling his pain. Falls to the ground. He's hollering still. The superintendent and the rest of the police are just looking at him. He falls to the ground and he's unconscious as well. It appears. Musashi just looks at him, still hasn't wiped his nose. Well, Master, are you? He appears to be unconscious, but then his eyes come back to life. Well, I shouldn't be surprised as he sits back up. Stands back up, eyes glared over. What else would one expect from a master swordsman? You slashed me before you even swung. Goodness, isn't it so? How did he do that? You didn't even give any indication you were going to step in. By the time I noticed, it was over and I was already dead. My foot hadn't even hit the floor and you had closed the distance. I had no time to touch you or even sense you. You win. I love Goki so much. Reaches that hand back out. Musashi reaches his back out in turn not to be bested. Ha. So now they've locked hands again. He's just, ugh, ow. Just as I thought, Musashi has already picked up Goki's technique. Only the Sword Saint can be this good. Goodness, so while holding Goki's hand, he's sliced Goki up a number of times, cut that arm off, cut Goki's head and torso into, in many ways, cut this arm off. He has so many slashes in him. And then Musashi smiles again. Goodness, it was that damn old fart Tokugawa, wasn't it? He told me, I'm sorry, he told you where to find me. My man Yujiro. Oh goodness, and Motobe of all people went to go find him. It doesn't matter. I hate to admit it, but you found me first, Motobe. I was about to go and pay you a little visit at your place. You were going to take time off from your vacation to visit me? You've had a wave of curious visitors lately, haven't you? After all, you're the one that knows him the best. Goodness, so that is the end of today's video, and Goki and Motobe, not Motobe, Goki and Musashi's fight is over with. Goki lost, of course, I mean, as to be expected, but at least he did manage to get Musashi on his back at one point and landed a hit, even though he was completely overwhelmed after that. But it was still super nice to see. So leave a comment below what you guys think about that. And here Motobe having gone to seek out Yujiro, and Yujiro saying that he was about to go looking for Motobe. Yujiro saying that he was about to go looking for Motobe as a surprise. I never would have thought that he'd even want to speak to anybody else, let alone Motobe, about Musashi. But I'm eager to see what their conversation will hold. So please leave a comment, hit the thumbs up, share with your fellow otaku. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you have, thank you very much. Feel free to check the links in the description for the playlists that will allow you to catch up to any given point in the Baki series, as well as King and Ashura. So I hope you guys will hit the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads. Hope to see you next video, and as always, otaku for life.